Hello, my name is Brian Downing from quantlabs.net. So last night I finally finished off my Khan Academy math learning, and I'm going to show you some other little tidbits that will, in my opinion, make you not only highly successful in quant trading, quant research, and quant software development. There's a lot of skills that we need to have to make us a cut above everybody else in terms of all the proliferation of educational whatnot out there. You're looking at Quantopian, Quant Start, a lot of cool places to start. But imagine this: when you get lumped into that, you are lumped into what we call sheeple, and the banks don't want sheeple, hedge funds don't want sheeple, and most of all, if you're starting out like what Ernie Chian has got me on my path, is regarding you don't want to follow the sheeple mentality on what you read online. Now, I've been at this for about 3.5 years, and a lot of people like to attack, why am I not trading, why am I not this, why am I not doing that? Well, the fact of the matter is I've decided, and a lot of people don't understand the gist and the genesis of how this quantlabs.net journey started. I'm a former developer, and a lot of people don't know, but I've been developing since I've been like 14, and we're going back all the way back to even before the Commodore 64 days. You're looking at my very first computer was actually a Commodore Commodore PET. That's how far back I go. I'm an old fossil, and I'm a dinosaur of this day and age. But when I look at the proliferation of where things have gone in terms of software development and just technology and where things are at, it's quite amazing. And it's the same thing in quant as well. So I've been fortunate enough to have been blessed with a lot of people that have come and gone and are still part of my clan that have helped me hone in and harness what is really, really important, what makes you good, and what makes you, basically get kicked out of the markets because, you just fail. So let's go over the core of it. Everything really comes down to being primitive. Forget the software tools, forget the software libraries and packages you get with things like R and Python. Forget all the stuff you read about and learn in school and places like the CQF and blah, blah, blah. I mean, honestly, this stuff is just going to give you a little piece of the action. It doesn't give you the whole realm of what you really, truly need to know. So essentially, what I'm saying is you need to really know how to innovate. And when I say innovate, we're talking creating your own trading algorithms and being able to literally build your own custom trading platforms. Now, for those that aren't willing to go down that journey, I'm going to tell you something real simple. You're better off to go to a casino or park your money in an ETF or something, because you'll do better doing that, because the markets are not going to be kind to people like you, especially the HFT operations. I'm carefully choosing my broker in terms of I don't want to make sure I get manipulated against, either on the market making side or the order gets drop down in the order book and all that. So things like that you might not see behind the scenes, but they're happening, and a lot of people are losing money because of it. So these are a variety of things you need to watch and learn and know how to defend yourself against them. And no school will teach you that. No course will teach you that, or at least there's no place that you can learn all of it in one spot. But here's what you can do. Enough blabbing. Let's get down to it. Everything comes down to just basics and primitive stuff. In terms of your building your own software platform, I'll get to that in a minute, actually. For the last 2-3 months, I've been learning Khan Academy. Okay, Khan Academy. When I came and started this, math was my biggest weakness. Any person that I've talked to, probably hundreds of them, at different levels, they all come back and say the same thing. Math is their biggest weakness. And math is the biggest weakness for me. So I decided to learn things like basically all the different major parts of math. So what am I talking about here? You know, if you come to Khan Academy is great because it's free. And Salman Khan, the guy who pretty well you watch, started the whole movement. When you see dudes on YouTube and got some black equivalent chalkboard and they start blabbing about math or whatever, really Salman was the guy who started that whole movement. And his site has proliferated into, God, I'm using the word proliferate a lot, has pretty well become the standard go-to place to learn just anything concerning math, computing, whatever, all these topics. But specifically in math for algorithms, and you're really new at it, or you're like me and you haven't seen it in, God, 20 years, let's say, there is things that you should learn. It's all free. The way Sal explains it all, it's like you're watching him literally in front of your eyes teach you things, and it's very basic, quick, easy to pick up, instead of some university professor that probably hasn't seen daylight and had a real job in God knows how 50 years, and just feed off of their own ego and just like to make their presentations more complicated than they really need to be. A guy like Sal makes it a lot easier. No matter what your level is, you can start all the way from kindergarten. But where I started when I started this was algebra. Okay, so typically what happens is if you click on one of these topics, you get a playlist, all these topics, and that in itself gives you structure, a roadmap. So I learned everything, man, all the way from logarithms, exponential, polynomial, basic stuff. But I started in algebra 2 here and went and proceeded all the way to linear algebra. And this literally took me, I'll estimate, about 3 months of just watching and eating and breathing this stuff in math, and just getting better at trigonometry, probability statistics, pre-calculus, differential calculus, integral calculus, multivariable calculus, differential equations, linear algebra. Pretty daunting stuff, but again, this video is about how to be successful. What are the secrets in being a true quant? It's learning this stuff, learning and understanding how things flow, and the market's no different with data. One thing will impact another on a mathematical level. Okay, so these are essentially a secret. Well, it's not really a secret, but what amazes me is when I talk to PhD students don't even know half of this stuff. It boggles my mind. Or they don't see the use of it in the world of quant finance, or just generally in finance. Well, you start to see things like physics and things like that. And why do you think hedge funds are wanting only physicists? You look at the job descriptions, you'll see they prefer people from the world of physics. Just the way they think, it's the way they model, that's the way they resolve problems. Now, enough of that on terms of the topics. Let me show you a few things. In order to really become really good at quant and math in general, and I purposely picked linear algebra because this is what it really comes down to when you want to work and keep a job in, let's say, a bank or a hedge fund. No matter what bleep hits the fan, I'll show you what you need to be good at. Things like proofing. Okay, see all this stuff, all these algorithms and equations. What Sal goes through is deriving this and this and this and why this works with that. Damn, man, you got to be good at that. You got to be able to proof algorithms and get it to that point where you literally become a master in the world of math. Being able to think on your feet, being able to really truly come up with amazing models. Now, how long will it take you to get to that level? Who knows? But I do think that is one of the critical skills that you need to become truly, really successful in the world of quant and quant finance. Okay, and those kind of people make a ton of dough. They basically are the backbone to a lot of banks' profits, even though they'll never tell you that. I've been on trading floors and highly secure environment. It's probably one of the largest in the world for a pension fund here in Canada. I've worked on the trading floor, and what you'll find is you have corners of blocked off where you usually have a blacked off section with the windows, and occasionally a young guy comes out, grabs his food, and he goes back to this area. Now, it's very sensitive in these trading desk areas. If nobody's ever been to these, I'll give you some examples. When you get these blackened off corners of these trading floors, or trading floors, these are guys coming up and doing this stuff, working on models for the banks. And I've already shown one for a DBFX, and I can guarantee you that those guys are very valuable. They get food sent to them that they're catered all the time, day and night, as long as they're staying and working. That again is the backbone of any financial trading operation. If it's a hedge fund, as I said, a pension fund, a bank, whatever. I've seen these environments. Not only that, I'll give you a couple other stories. Top floor in a bank, the trading floor had a windowed off area, but it was a one-way because they're so paranoid that when you look in from other skyscrapers into the building, there's no way you could look into the floor, the trading desk, because it was a one-way from the inside looking out. So people looking outside in wouldn't see anything because it doesn't reflect. I think it just reflects. I don't know. The other thing is, I was told by the high-up director, do not look at screens. If you are caught looking at screens on the trading floor, they're going to suspect you of nefarious things. Do not look at screens. So, very, very interesting experience. But, nonetheless, this is why I do what I do with quantlabs.net, because I fly solo and I don't have to worry about stuff like that. Okay, so we talked about the math, the algorithms, the key component of what makes you really successful in quant trading, and understanding all this stuff. You got to know the basics, the core, all this stuff, and I've already talked about it enough. Next up, we talk about your trading platform. Now, remember, I've talked to a lot of people, really, really successful people. That one guy is trading in the billions a year. I've got personal people I talk to quite regularly that are making 9 digits, 7 digits. And I've got other people that are making 6 digits a month, and they're just independents. So I've got a whole whack load of people out there that I know, that I talk to regularly. And of course, you know, Ernie Chan's one of them, who's one of the pioneers in this industry. And we've talked about stuff like this. But on the tech side, especially your trading platform is another key ingredient to it all. It has to be light. It has to have no state, and virtually your designing patterns are key. So I do cover those topics as part of my membership for the Quant Elite. I'm not here to push that on you, but I do cover topics like that. But when I started out in development, when I was about a wee young lad, about 15, was my first programming job. I learned to master C. And for quite a while, I loved C because it was a simple language. And let me show you something here. Now, TOPE is one of the indexes. Now, this is for August 2014. You know, everybody goes on about the death of C, but look at it. It's been #1 for God knows how long. And it just bounces between Java and C. And then, of course, C++. But C is #1 for a lot of reasons because you can embed it. Same with Java. I've worked with Java. I loved Java up until Java 6. And it was a great language until Mr. Ellison and Oracle and company decided to, well, botch the language. And of course we have C++, which is just an extension in the object-oriented programming version of C++. And we all know that in the world of tech and quant trading platforms, specifically even in high-frequency trading, C++ is the language, and C and Java. All these other languages, I wouldn't worry about them too much, except Objective-C. Well, you'll literally have no impact on you because it's a language for mobile, and that's for Apple's iOS. That's why it's big, because well, we know that Apple and iOS is huge because of iPhones and iPads. And then of course our language of choice is C#, and we got Python, and down here we got F#, and some other language that we know about and love. But let's talk about C. Now the key behind your trading platform is this: dynamic memory. When you go back to this index, Java. Now some would argue that this is really not a language. You have a runtime dependency called a JVM. Here you have a runtime dependency as well. And C++, when you compile your program or your app or whatever, you either develop it in as an exe or a bin file in Linux. So they're separate, self-contained executables. And that's important because when you're dealing with Java, C#, you have things like garbage collection, and the language takes care of the memory allocation for you. And .NET's gotten a lot better with the latest .NET framework because you can control the garbage collector, which is quite good. So they've come up with, there is low latency that is needed for garbage collection. So they've added that now in the latest version of .NET. And that's somewhat not much of a concern as, let's say, Java. Now, I don't know where Java's at with garbage collection, but I know they've addressed it within the .NET. But nonetheless, C and C++ are the languages of what makes you really, really fast. Now, I'll give you an example. If you look at the coding style of things like malloc, I'm just going to keep it really basic. Malloc is, you just memory allocate your size, if it's an int, and how much you need. You assign a variable to it, and that's it. And then you tear down the process and remove that object internally within your code. You have to know how to do this. If you don't, then you're just going to run into memory allocation going off the rails. That's really important. And because of that, that enables you to, I've seen demos in Python with Cython to speed up Python with C code here using these techniques. Now, when you're working with Python on its own with no package that optimizes the code, you run at a certain point. But with the Cython, and if it's coded using this style, you can enhance your execution by, the demo had 130 times. And the reason is because you are removing all the unnecessary bound checks, the data types that you have with the code on the memory allocation that's as part of the core language. So for instance, what I'm saying is, let's say you use Java and you create you instantiate an object. Let's call it an integer. And you're just doing a simple one line. Well, the behind the scenes is basically the Java JVM, the runtime dependency, or what's called a Java virtual machine, has to basically do this step. Okay, does a couple of other checks internally, like bound checks. How is there enough memory? What happens to throw an exception and stuff like that. So when you're working with, let's say, Java, C#, or whatever language on the garbage collection side with the memory enhancement, you've got like 3, 4, maybe 5 steps before that one statement to create an object, otherwise known as instantiating. So that will still kill the performance of your code. So that's why God created C in the 70s. I think it was actually the 60s, but it doesn't matter. Enables you to enhance and fully control your own memory allocation. Okay, that's important, but it complicates your code because, well, stethoscope here. It enhances your code, and it complicates your code because you have to worry about the memory allocation. So here's another example. This is a Coda project. A tutorial on how to do it in C++, low-level object model. That's what really, truly makes your code really fast. And imagine with your trading platform, with this type of coding to virtually control your performance. It's really key, and that's what makes basically trading platforms really fast. As I've also mentioned, there's design patterns that matter, that makes basically life or death for a trading platform. And then when you bring back Khan Academy and being able to do it either in C or C++, your code is going to be very fast. It's one step away from being assembler, and it's one step above being right on top of the operating system. That's what makes stuff really fast. Now, that's why languages really matter, like C and C++ in HFT. Now you get the argument with Java and C# even, and maybe even Python. The fact of the matter is, and I've talked to various people at a low level, this type of development is what I call whacking in the weeds, because you're whacking in the weeds on your own memory allocation, on your own internal coding objects. The people that think that Java, C# are faster or close to it are really ignorant, because as long as you have a garbage collector in your language, you're not going to be having absolute control on your memory allocation. And I'm not going to sit here and do benchmarking and argue that to death, but it's a fact, and it's hairy to code this way, but the performance, when you start getting the multi-threading and stuff, it matters. But I'm no expert at it. But I do know C and somewhat C++ and Java. Java's pretty good, but as I said, as long as that JVM's out there, that's going to be something you cannot control in the performance of it. But again, the garbage collector may have been updated and you may have better control. I don't know. But I'm not a fan of having runtime dependencies anyways, like the Java Virtual Machine or JVM. Alright, so let's go back to the and another big factor with these languages is you do not have dependencies, you do not use libraries, you do not use any form of a package to make your life easier on the coding level. If that package is badly optimized with, let's say, just the memory itself, it's useless. So you have to be really, really strong and really advanced in programming to really take advantage of these elements of dynamic memory, writing basically your own memory allocator. It's critical, night and day when it comes to performance, if that is the direction you want to go. If you just want to use your MetaTrader, then by all means, use MetaTrader or whatever retail trading platform you want. But the key to it all, to be really successful, I find, is you really got to be strong in your algorithm development. And a good place to start is here at Khan Academy. I've done it. I'm going to be putting together my roadmap and doing a video on that. And the other thing is your memory allocation. Maybe start here with a Coda project. I don't know. But I do think that these are important elements, because these will keep you in business when the markets turn, especially when you understand the algorithms. Now, there's a bunch of courses that I'm learning right now, and they're going to help and give me a better foundation. But this is what makes people really successful in quant and keep their jobs. Hopefully, this will help you out. Talk to you later.